What am
right
I
or
looking
left?
at? Yeah.
If the wall had eyes, is it on the right of it or on the left?
Hello and welcome. My name is Alexander Gonzalez. With me today is my good old friend J.E.
Hey, that's me.
And please remember that we are not game devs. How are you today?
Doing all right. I just wish it got cooler. Just
I'm
10
actually in a
degrees is
place
all
that's
I
like
ask.
80 degrees. It's
That's,
just humid. So the
ugh,
air around you keeps you warm.
yeah, terrible. Terrible. Humidity is the worst.
And what's weird about humidity is like I'm in a tropical climate and I'm like, hey, why doesn't the wind blow here? Like there's no breeze.
Yeah.
But those are not the weather conditions we are talking about today. Today we are creating something new. Every week, We Are Not Game Devs will create a new, exciting video game idea that we have always wanted to play but do not have any knowledge or know how to create the wonderful experience that are video games. And today is my turn to prevent. We Are Not Game Devs 164th IP.
We're not going to make this happen. We're preventing it.
I want to make a game where you play as a child. And you're using your imagination to build a fort. And I want it to be a base building game where it's kind of like a free world, but you're collecting things like cardboard and aluminum.
Ooh.
And when you snap it together with different materials, it creates real world imaginary implications. So like when you go inside, like let's say, if anyone can remember, out of the box.
Out of the box.
So I don't know if we're going to be claimed. Don't think so.
I don't
But
think so.
when we go inside, I want it to be so when it snaps together and it becomes like when you put it together, it transforms. So that there's like, you're living in the real world, but you're also seeing through the eyes of imagination.
No, definitely. I see exactly what you're talking about already, where let's say you get like a garbage can lid, 2 garbage can lids, and then like 4 sticks or whatever, and then you craft it in your base, and then it becomes this fancy, cool space chair in your vision. But you go and collect it in the real world, and it looks like trash can lids and shit. But when you actually build it, it looks really cool. And I could see this kind of like, in my head, I'm thinking like Ed, Ed, and Eddie, where you live in a cul-de-sac, and then you're like just building this in your backyard or whatever, and you come out in front, and then you have to like battle the big kids to get to like other materials, like go to the dumpster or go to like the alleyway behind the fucking ice cream shop or something like that, and go collect your items, go back to your base, and then like craft it out more and build out your like castle.
Exactly. And I think it would be cool if in different levels there's going to be a free play mode, but the story is going to have different levels that are different themes, where you can do medieval and you can do space, and then you can do contemporary, and then there's just going to be different palettes that you can swap, maybe with R1 and L1, where you can swap different themes, and then eventually you can start mixing and matching, where you can have maybe a space station with like castle towers, and then like a contemporary chimney and stuff.
Yeah. How about
how do you scavenge? Like, where would you look for materials, or how would you break it down?
So I think in terms of scavenging, maybe we'll place this neighborhood in like a metal scrapyard type of town, where they like, there's like a scrapyard nearby that like collects metal knickknacks, and then that's where you would go. Or like, in the alleyway where like, of like maybe a pizza shop, and then there's like cardboard boxes that they throw out in the back. Just like, maybe you can earn money in this game and then go to like the hardware store and actually buy like 2x4s and stuff like that.
Maybe a store where you can exchange resources.
Yeah. Maybe other kids in the neighborhood are in on this game, and one of them likes to play like the vendor or whatever, and they have like a store set up with stuff, and you trade them like candy or something to purchase their items. And there's like bullies that don't like you guys playing this game, and they pick on you or whatever, and those are like the enemies you have to fight. But it's gonna be like to the it fits the theme of whatever theme it is right now. So if it's medieval theme, you guys pretend you're doing knight battles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Blaster
Or
battles and all that.
maybe, yeah. And what you can do is, depending on what theme or palette you're choosing, you can load out and you can have like a Space Ranger uniform where you have like a blaster,
Hmm.
or a knight uniform where you have a sword and shield, or contemporary, maybe you have a slingshot, or I don't what.
Yeah, and I like the slingshot idea. I like that, where that's the first theme you get, which is just basic play in the cul-de-sac, and you just have slingshots and water guns and like play blocks and stuff like that. It's very basic. And then
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this is how I see the story being built up in terms of the story mode, is you'll have different story modes, which is each of the palettes, right? Each of the skins or whatnot. And it's like every summer vacation, this is the game this neighborhood plays. And most of the cul-de-sac is in on it. So every summer, everyone gets ready to build up their new game, and then they choose what the theme is. So the first time when the game first starts, they don't really have a theme. So it is just like slingshots and like little sticks and stuff. And then they move up to medieval. And then that's when you start collecting different items to make medieval stuff. And then next summer, it's like, I don't know, space. And then maybe the Wild West. And then maybe like,
Oh, the Wild
we
West
get-
would be good.
yeah, crazy like wizards and stuff like that, like magic, sci-fi, and get further and further into the future as they get more and more imaginative every year. And also as they get older, it would be cool to that's when they start adding guns and stuff like that. Like airsoft guns become like blasters in like a sci-fi world and stuff like that.
Okay, okay. I like that a lot. Now, this game has to be online. I mean, we're going to have a story mode, but there has to be like an online co-op where you're building with friends, right? Where maybe there's servers and you guys can join and then co-op play together.
So I think we could make it kind of like how Grounded did it, which is the Rare game that is in early access right now, where it's a similar game where you are a group of kids that get shrunk mysteriously, and so you have to survive with all these like bugs and blades of grass to build your base and stuff. But how that game works is that there is like the single player, you do it by yourself and you're just surviving, or you could have friends join you and it's a co-op lobby, kind of like how No Man's Sky works as well, where like
Yeah, yeah.
you could have people jump in and out and play in the shared universe, and they could go build off their bases in other areas as well. But it's a shared server, and then you could have your solo server that if you don't want anyone messing with your shit, you could just have that server as well. I don't know if you meant like you want like other kids fighting each other in like
No. I was thinking
active-
like they would collaboratively
more
build. So that
co-op.
way,
Yeah.
yeah, so there would be bigger bases, more resources, different ideas, more creativity.
So I think it'd be cool to have like a co-op server where like the story changes a little bit, where it's not just one kid that's doing this. We'll add more houses in the cul-de-sac for how big that server is.
Yeah.
And then new house will like be built, and it's like that's your neighbor, and they get their own little plot to build their own base out, or they come over and help build your base out, type of thing, if they so please.
Most definitely. And we can keep adding themes as we think of them, because I think another good one would be post-apocalyptic, like vaults and stuff, but play pretend at it.
Yeah.
So it would be, and another one I think eventually, I don't know, for me, I would love it, would be robots. Doesn't have to be mechs, but you can do like where you can build eventually in the sci-fi thing, you can build into a robot where you build boxes around you and then you get into a suit.
And maybe for that, to make it interesting, the bullies will counter whatever the thing is. So in that instance, the bullies will be seen as like kaiju, maybe. And so it'd be like a mechs versus kaiju thing. And like, it's not that the bullies are playing along. I think it's more that you as a kid see them as kaiju and have to beat them in these cardboard robot suits.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So, do we want there to be? How do you want it done? Because I could see it being where when you start off on the level, there's more reality than there is imagination. As you build more and more, imagination takes over. So then maybe the skybox swaps, where if it's sci-fi, it changes into space eventually with enough stuff. And if you walk away from your base, and then it changes into ordinary life, where you have to
Mm-hmm.
scavenge for more materials. So, like, let's say there's something where you're trying to build and you're using like tin cans and garbage pails. That would, in the imaginary space, if it's close to your base, become like moon rocks or
Yeah,
steel.
I like that. And maybe part of the goal of the game is to eventually transform your whole cul-de-sac into this imaginary world. So like it's not just building out your base, it's building out the whole neighborhood where like you would change a mailbox into like something. You go and change your front yard into something. You go and change like, and then like maybe local stores are in, like there's like a local bodega or whatever, and they're in on the game as well, just to like be cool with the kid and like try to be the cool
Oh yeah, and
storekeep
they
and like
sell them
change.
like space tubes and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, like I don't think it's gonna be overly realistic where some of the adults are gonna be like, hey kids, stop, cut that out. They're just gonna, everyone's gonna be pretty cool with the kids playing
It's
this
going to be a
game and
cool world.
yeah, and be into it and want to contribute to the kids' imagination or whatever.
I'm trying to think of what else we can do. The only other thing I could think of is another one would be Egyptian settings where you're trying to build pyramids and like you're getting a river to flow and
I think it'd be cool if for the pyramid one, you try to build out your pyramid and make it like an intricate maze. And then
yeah, with
maybe
a
it's more of
tomb
like,
with
yeah,
booby
maybe it's
traps.
more like a DM thing where bullies will try to infiltrate your pyramid and you have to create booby traps to get them away from the center where you are, where your sarcophagus is and all your treasures and stuff.
I like that. Yeah. And then with maybe the fantasy world, that one will have different kings or sires or landowners fighting each other
Hmm.
to have the biggest castle and sit on the throne. And that would be more of like a king of the throne type of deal.
Yeah, so do you want, maybe what it could be kind of like is in each era or palette or whatever, the other kids, as you grow your own base, maybe there's like a percentage meter and like specific items you have to build to advance the story. Other kids in the story will advance at a certain pace as well with you. So it's not like
Mm-hmm.
on a time clock, it's on a progression scale. And that's where certain events will take place, like certain battles and certain story beats. And maybe like we could add in like, oh, there's a war going on because you've gotten the ballista built. Now the next story is progressing in the medieval story where you could have like siege warfare between you and your friends' neighbor castles and whatnot.
I like that. If you build certain key structures, it will attract different people. So, like,
Hmm.
let's say you build a tavern, it becomes a milk bar, quote unquote. And then
Hmm.
all of a sudden, a bard will appear. So then there's that kid that like plays musical instruments, and he's just
Yeah,
like a bard playing outside.
that'd be
Imagine
cool.
almost like the way South Park Stick of Truth was. It's like that level of detail as the kids start playing. So you have different neighborhood kids fill in different roles in your imaginary world
Yeah, it's kind of like
to be the NPCs.
as you build out your base and add things, it'll bring a specific kid from the story into your kingdom or whatever, and they'll play an NPC there, or rival kids will have something advance in their camp as well at the same time, type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, and then
Um,
for you, we'll do a pirate level somehow.
oh yeah, that'd be awesome. I don't know how that would work.
Maybe that
Maybe,
one's going to be where they all go to the local pool on a summer day
yeah,
and they build like floats or whatever,
that'd be cool. Yeah,
or a stormy rainy day like floods the street. So they're all sitting there in like a stormy weather where it's like they're all like pirates and it's like the wind's going and everything.
yeah. I could also see it where we utilize walkie talkies in the imagination as like just ways to play. Like for the pirate one, for example, they'll use walkie talkies to communicate with each other, but they're just in their own boats, in their own um area, but in their imagination they're right across from each other, but in reality they're using walkie talkies to talk to each other, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's how we could like do ship battles in the imagination space or whatever.
All right. I'm seeing it come together now where I think we can have a lot of different themes go a lot of different ways.
I think the epilogue of this game is so this game, let's say, will span like what, 6 to 8 chapters,
Yeah.
right? With 6 to 8 different themes. And the last one, the ninth or seventh or whatever, is that means this game has been played by this neighborhood for 6 to 7 years of their lives. Let's say from like
When they're
age
like 6 years old.
6 to 12, right?
Yeah.
And then they all go to high school and then they all like split off and do their own thing.
What if
But then they come back like after like 10 years later, they come back and then they're like, let's play one more game. And they're like 24 at this point. And they play the game. And then this is the mode where it's like everything goes. You have all the imaginary palettes.
that's where I want
your
it to be
disposal.
almost like, to date myself, Kids Next Door, where now they have tree houses full of bases where they're like, all right, Alpha Team, go. And you see them like getting into capsules and it's almost like X-Wings as they're taking off. There's
Yeah.
different people getting suited up in mechs. It's almost like Ready Player One where there's different
Right.
ideas
And then one
coming
person
together.
brings out the pirate ship, and then one person
Yeah.
brings out like their horse and they're like Western theme.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I like that a lot. Cool. So, what does this game look like? Like, what kind of graphics are you seeing here? Like, I'm thinking it's probably going to be just right there where it's going to be 3D because it's going to be fun to go into. It's going to be a game where I think it's going to be third person. You're going to be playing as a kid so you can see what you're looking at.
I visualize it like how Fortnite kind of looks, where it
We
has
do
a,
that art style so many times. We talk
but
about
like Fortnite now. I mean, for like right now, where it has a bunch of different art styles all in one game. Like, if you've seen it recently, Rick from Rick and Morty looks way different than Superman looks. You know what I mean? And like they're all in this one universe together. And like at first, I don't think you're gonna notice it. Where like each palette has an art style to it. I kind of want to think like Kingdom Hearts, how Kingdom Hearts does it, where they're all the same art style, but they look different enough where you're like, oh, I see they're doing something different here with the art.
Mhm.
And then when it is every art style put together, it's going to look a little clashy because it's going to have like different art styles all over, but it's going to mesh really well because it's going to have like an overarching art style like Fortnite, but different art styles per era, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're talking about. I think that would make the most sense.
Like the pirate era will have more of like a water painting look to it, whereas the medieval will have more realistic look, like Pirates of the Caribbean world in Kingdom Hearts versus
a medieval look which has like Renaissance era looking stuff.
Yeah, and then like that's more realistic Kingdom Hearts versus like I don't know, Hercules, where it has like the big round art style look, but it's all the same art style, but different stylistic choices and like different filters or whatever to make it look a little bit different.
Okay. Okay. I think the music's going to follow the art here, where there's going to be sea shanties, techno, trance music for sci-fi, sea shanties, of course, for the pirate, um, anime style music when you're building out the kaiju's and the mechs, right? Like it's going to be different kinds of themes going on. It's not going to be the same theme unless we can translate the same theme across different
Musical
styles.
styles.
Yeah,
I
by
like that. Yeah.
utilizing different instruments.
Yeah, that's probably the better way to go, I think. Kind of like how Apex Legends does it, where they have different themes for everyone, but it's the same melody. It's just a different style of music.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now this is the kicker here. I almost feel like this game could be free to play. We could either
I
charge full pop and have them buy into the levels, or give them the first 3 levels for free and let them buy more packs if they so choose. That way we get a bigger customer client base.
I think you get the first maybe 2 stories for free with
Or have them earn
unlimited
it.
customization, right?
Or have it where they get like a 3-week free trial.
Like how Knockout City does, and maybe it's like that, where it's like you get a free trial of the first world, and then maybe like a little bit of the second world, but that's like a timed demo. And if you want more of the second world and on, you could buy map packs or whatever.
Yeah, so what if we give an hour of each world for free?
Except for the first one. I think the first one's just open,
Yes,
and you can
yes,
just play
yes.
it as much as you want. But then after that, you could try out the other ones to a certain point, and then continue from there. You know what I mean? And we'll add more as it goes on. Are you just leaving groups?
Hey, what are you talking about? What's going on here? We're making a podcast, sir.
I'm not the one that's just leaving Discord groups as I'm talking.
So, what nobody knows behind the scenes, I guess if we're going to take a fucking moment here, is I always do something with my hands. I either have a t-shirt or I'm fiddling with something. And I noticed that that on Discord there was a bunch of groups. So as I'm listening to Jay speak, I was leaving groups. Yes.
It's fine. I do that on PlayStation all the time, especially with this new PlayStation party system. It's awful. It's terrible. You could have 5 groups of the exact same people things with all have different leaders, and it's just terrible. I hate it. I hate this new PlayStation party system. I want them to go back to normal. Anyway, let's name this game.
All right. Tell me when the timer hits.
Go for it. The summer game.
No, that doesn't tell you at all what's happening. Imagine Land. Land of Imagination. Imagination Builder.
I like Imagine Land. Let's stick with that one. 42 seconds.
All right, Imagine Land is a game where you play in the third person across different levels in a base building type of game where there are different themes, different time zones, and you have to pick up everyday household items and transform the world around you into the imagination land that you so choose, whether that be sci-fi, fantasy, and more. In Imagination Land. Imagine Land. I always end up changing the name 2 or 3 times. All right, Jay. I think we have a game here. Would this be a game you'd want to play, and is it fun?
So base builders and me have a weird relationship where I want to like base builders, and I want to put a lot of time into them. What ends up happening is I start building my base or whatever. Let's take No Man's Sky, for example, which is the one I got into the most. And I'm building it, and then I'm like, finally, I'm done. And I step back and I look at it, and I'm like, damn, that looks like shit. And I just spent 10 hours building this piece of shit. It looks
And you're like,
terrible.
I'm really no architect.
Yeah, I'm like, I do not understand how to make buildings and how to make them look cool and make them look functional and unique. And like, I see other people's spaces and they have like electrical wiring hidden around so you can't see them, and they're lit up and they have fucking generators going and they have like all these artistic structures and shit, and I'm like, I don't even know.
And they're like,
I should have put a window or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and they're like, if you use 2 exhaust pipes and a headlight, you make a street lamp.
Yeah, they're like, they figure out how to use the set that they're given to make something even more unique. But this game, I think it will make it a little bit easier, where I feel like when you build something, the imagination portion takes over, so it looks cool already, and maybe it'll give you a little bit more guidance on how to build your thing so it looks a little bit better, rather than just a square with a couple doors and windows in it, because that's what mine always end up looking like. It's just a block with no corners or angles or anything. It's just a square.
So it would help in that regard, for sure. For sure. It would kind of take it and make it so that it would make it cooler than it already is.
Like, I want Dark Cloud level of building where they pretty much build it for you, but they just give you little hints on what will make it look a little bit better.
I like that.
And you could be creative if you want to be creative, you know.
And for me, of course, I'd play this game. It'd be a lot of fun. I love imagination. This is straight up a me game. I'm surprised there's an animal taming, but you can't get them all, you know?
I mean, we should play No Man's Sky or Grounded together sometime. I think we'd have a fun time, especially No Man's Sky. I want to get to the later stuff where you have a mech and you're walking around in this giant moving mech and stuff, but I haven't gotten that far at all.
I would like to. I would like to. Now that we have a complete game, what game studio would you want to make Imagination Land? Imagine Land. Damn it, Imagine Land.
That is a great question, and I don't have a great answer for you. We could give it.
I'll shoot one off the hip. Bam, Double Fine. Double
Fine's a great choice. I think that is one of the better choices, because I was gonna give it to
Rare. Bam.
Rare has Grounded, so
yeah.
But what is it called? Is it Media Molecule?
Yep.
The problem with that is, now that they've made Dreams, this would be a step down. You know what I mean? It's like it'd be
an amazing thing in Dreams, where it would be something that they could actually make games in. This is the kind of things that Dreams wish it had.
Right. Like a specific game mode within Dreams, where someone builds every single asset. You know what I mean? Like, makes it all complete like this. But I think Media Molecule could have done this like in between Dreams and Little Big Planet 2 or whatever, or Tearaway or whatever. Maybe what it would be more like is if Dreams, or if Media Molecule did like a side project and had a small team work on something else. This could be like a secondary project that's apart from the main Media Molecule team. Like if they made like a Media Molecule London studio or something, like a side studio, you know what I mean?
You know, another studio that would do great with it, but would replace all of its assets with its own, would be Nintendo. If it's like, you could have pieces of Donkey Kong, Mario,
like,
Pikmin.
Legend of Zelda is like the medieval skin or whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
I have another one. Let me get their name right now. Playtonic Games, the guys behind Ukulele, which is essentially the old school Rare team. Yeah. I think they would do pretty good. But I think Double Fine's the best choice, and maybe we could even give it to like Supermassive. No, is that right? Is it Supermassive or Supergiant? Supergiant is who I'm thinking of. Sorry,
I was like, I think there's 2 of them.
Yeah, Supergiant, the guys behind Bastion, Transistor, and like Hades and stuff like that.
And they don't miss.
much different type of game, but I think it'll be a fun like side game that they can make.
All of a sudden, it's like a hand drawn, picturesque looking game.
Yeah.
Very nice. And with that, our 164th IP has gone gold. We hope you look forward to this experience that will probably never release. You can write to @poundgames@gmail.com if you have anything to patch into the game we created today. Also, give us feedback. We're still learning how to make the show better, and your feedback really helps. We have a Patreon. If you'd like to back our ideas, please head over to patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. Patrons receive 2 days episodes early. 2 days early episodes is what you receive, and an extra podcast at the beginning, which you caught the tail end of our conversation at the beginning of this episode. That's patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. If you liked our show, why not subscribe and give us all the stars on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, Spotify, YouTube, and more. And if they ask for a review, instead of reviewing our show, become your inner game critic and review Imagine Land, the video game we just created. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next Friday with another new IP. Again, my name is Alex Gonzalez.
And I'm J.E.
Thank you, and please remember that We Are Not Game Devs. My allergies kicked up at the end of this podcast, like a quarter of the way, and I can't breathe. Which is why you hear me like pausing.
While I talk about how we monetize this even more after launch, and we have all the map packs. And the story, it's over, because at the end of the story, they don't play this game every summer anymore because they're grown-ups and they're grown kids. But the DLCs
they can just
would
buy
be
their
like,
dreams.
Yeah, we like interject like little DLC map packs for like Halloween, where just one of the years they do this, they decide to pick up the game during one year during Halloween,
or
where
what
they
if
build a
they're
haunted mansion.
Or what if their kids pick it up and they have their old stuff, but then there's new things like technology built in?
That'd be the second game. That'd be the second game. The futuristic version of this, where it's all sci-fi and high tech, and instead of cardboard boxes, they're like, let me code in on my Raspberry Pi 4 to make this look a certain way.
They're like, you guys didn't have iPads? Let me show you what an iPad does.
Yeah. They like build like whole LED walls of iPads to make,
oh my god,
where...
RGB everywhere.